Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 39 of C programming on the Mac. In this tutorial I'm going to be covering how we use the conditional operator, and I could have covered this way back when we did if-else statements, but I actually just left it out, so my bad. But yeah, so you'll live. It's basically the same thing as an if-else statement, just worded a little differently, and it can kind of help you if you're in certain situations, which we'll cover in this tutorial. So again, this is just me kind of throwing on this tutorial to add to the C programming series. So what is the conditional operator? Well, like I said, it's very similar to the if-else statement. Essentially, how you set it up looks kind of like this. So you have your condition, and then you do a question mark, and then you basically have your true value, colon, and then your false value. So essentially what this means is you will evaluate some condition. So for example, if we had an integer and we wanted to say compare this integer to a number, so we could say like let's say we have an integer called count, we could say is count or count equal to 1. So if that was true, then this statement right here would be executed. If count was not equal to 1, like we were trying to find in the condition here, then false, whatever was on the right side of the colon, would be executed. So that's essentially how the conditional operator works. You just have some kind of condition that you would like to test, whether a value is equal to something, which would be a good condition. Then we could, depending on what that condition is, whether it's true or false, if it's true, whatever is on the left side of the colon will be executed, and if it's false, then whatever's on the right side of the colon will be executed. So we'll see how this works in more detail in a second, but that's the general layout of how the conditional operator works. So now let's just say, for example, we have an integer called cars, and we give it a value of 20 to start. And now we would like to print out a message saying that we have, let's say that we have 20 cars in the lot. So we could just say we have, and then %d for an integer, and then we'll throw in the value of cars. So we'd say we have 20 cars. And then we're going to stop right here because this is where the conditional operator could actually come into use. Let's say, for example, we only have one car in the lot, and we say, well, we don't really want to say we have one cars. We would like to say we have one car in the lot to be grammatically correct. So for that, we could just do %s, and then we could say in the lot. So essentially, let's just start with the first part. So for right now, we have a value of 20 assigned to cars. So this would want to print out we have 20 cars. So the first variable that we're going to throw into this is cars. And then the next part is right here with this %s, which again is a string. So essentially, if we don't have just one car, we're going to want to print out we have multiple cars. So for example, we have 20 cars, so we'd like to print out we have 20, and then we'd like to tack on an s to our car. If we only have one car, though, we would only like to print out a space because we don't want to print out anything. We just want it blank. Because again, we only want to say we have one car, we don't want to say we have one cars. So this is where a perfect example of the conditional operator can come into use. So we have our condition. So the condition is whether cars is equal to 1. So if cars is equal to 1 is true, then what do we want to do? Well, if cars is equal to 1, then we don't want to have an s tacked on. So all we want to do is have two double quotes, which will be nothing. It just is two double quotes, which means there's no character there. So basically this is gone, and there will just be car left. There won't be any character there. However, if this is false, which would mean that cars is not equal to 1, then we would like to put in a value of s so that we have blank cars. So that's an excellent example of how the conditional operator can be useful. Again, we're testing our condition. We're saying, is cars equal to 1? If it's true, then we're going to print nothing. We're going to have basically no character put in. However, if it's true, or sorry, if it's false, then we're going to have S put in instead. So if cars is equal to anything else other than 1, the condition would be false, and then we would print out S, or we'd tack on S into our printf. So that's a good example of how the conditional operator works. So now let's go ahead and build and run this. And as we can see, we have 20 cars in the lot. So as you can see, since cars is not equal to 1, it's going to go to whatever the false evaluation of this was, which was putting in an S into this. So then our %S here is going to be putting in the S value. However, let's try a value of 1 here. So now let's say we only have 1 car in the lot. So now if we build and run this, we can see we have 1 car in the lot. And therefore we don't, since cars was equal to 1, it didn't put any character in that slot, so now essentially we don't have any character there, and that's why we are left with just car. So now let's just try some other use of this conditional operator, now that you have a little bit of familiarity with it anyway. So now let's say that we could only have a maximum of, let's say, 15 cars in the lot. So now we're going to say, well, if cars is equal to, if cars is anything over 15, then we want to change that number to 15, because 15 is the max amount we can have. So our condition is going to be if cars is greater than 15, and if that evaluates to true, whereas cars is greater than 15, then cars is going to get a value of 15. And if it's false, whereas cars would be less than 15, then we're going to say that all it's going to get is a value of whatever cars is. So since cars would be whatever value here, we're just going to reassign cars to that same value. So now let's try to build and run this, and if we go to run this, we can see that we get no change because, again, our cars is equal to 1. So our condition is going to say, well, is cars greater than 15? No, so we're not going to assign the value of 15 to cars, we're just going to reassign the value of cars, which is equal to 1. So now let's try something else. Let's change this value to 20, and since cars, if we're testing it right here to see is cars greater than 15, the answer is yes, which is true, so we are going to assign it a value of 15. Because essentially, cars is going to get whatever value comes out of this condition. So if it's true, it's going to get this value right here, which is 15. However, if it's false, it's going to get cars, which is whatever the original value was. But in this case, since cars is greater than 15, we're going to reassign cars with a value of 15 now. So now let's build and run this. And as you can see, we have 15 cars in the lot now because cars was greater than 15, and so since that's true, we assign cars a value of 15. So that's essentially how the conditional operator works. It's basically like an if-else statement. Essentially, you're testing to see something is true. If it is, we do this, and if it's not, we do whatever is on the other side of the colon. So you can use this conditional operator in a multitude of different ways. It can be a good substitute for if-else statements. It especially works well in cases like this where you would like to fill in whether it's a capital or not a capital, if it's plural or if it's not. So this example works quite well here. So anyway, this was the conditional operator, and you can see how it could have a few different uses. And I hope you, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And I hope you subscribe to the channel as well. And I'll see you next tutorial.